Japan during the Age of the Samurai is pretty well known for massive battles, ninja, betrayals, and the modernization of the Japanese state. One pretty interesting part is the inclusion of foreign samurai, and that's the story of today's video, where two German arms dealers became samurai. Edward Schnell had served in the Prussian army in the 1850s, spoke Malay, and arrived in Japan no later than in 1862. Some of the timeline here is a bit fuzzy, but it's for sure that he'd been in Japan since at least 1862. He also owned a rather large plot of land in Yokohama and had a business deal of some kind with a Swiss watchmaker, presumably until 1867, likely because it wasn't making enough money. But you know what was going to make money? Guns. Henry Schnell, meanwhile, had also been a soldier and was both the secretary and translator to the Prussian counselor Max von Brandt. Diplomacy in Japan in the 1860s was quite chaotic, to say the least, but despite being deep in the diplomatic office, Henry had a knack for something other than being a secretary and translator, and that was selling guns. Max von Brandt had solidified his position in Japan by successfully transitioning the focus of German policy in the country. Initially, the Germans had an ambition of creating a German colonial outpost in the city of Enzo, present-day Hokkaido, Japan. However, due to the consolidation of Japan under the Meiji Emperor, Brandt promoted the expansion of German commercial and cultural presence in the country instead. One thing that von Brandt did was starting to cultivate German assets, where he had sent military advisors to emerging Japanese military groups after learning of the successes of a German sergeant named Karl Koppen. Koppen had built a reputation for transforming a band of samurai into a modern army in the city of Wakayama, and von Brandt wanted to continue this type of policy. And this policy was about to spell out opportunity for the Schnell brothers in Japan. While traveling in an open coach through Edo, modern-day Tokyo, in September of 1867, the brothers were attacked by a samurai from Nubatu, who drew his sword in a private vendetta to try to enforce the Sonojoi policy of overthrowing the Tokugawa shogunate. The attacker was then shot in the chest but managed to escape, and shooting around the Schnells injured another innocent bystander. Meanwhile, their Japanese bodyguards, provided by the Bakufu, kinda just sat there and watched. Von Brandt, meanwhile, wanted the attacker to be executed, but apparently the Prussian council had no military means to back up their wishes. So he decided to go and get some, and the other samurai dealt with the attacker. Edward and Henry Schnell served the Eizu domain as military instructors and producers of weapons, which translates to they were arms dealers who taught the samurai how to use them. And after a while, Henry was granted the Japanese name Hiratsu Buhi, which is Japanese is the inverted characters of the daimyo's name Matsudaira Katamori. As Hiratsu, Henry Schnell was given the right to wear swords as well as residence in the castle town of Wakamatsu, and despite dressing like a samurai, he was also seen wearing Prussian pants and Western riding boots. Although there's not much records or much to say on Edward's part of being granted the same rights as becoming a samurai, the brothers appear to have been a package deal. During the Boshin War from 1868 to 1869, Henry counseled the daimyo of Nagaoka domain, which was loyal to the shogunate, and he sold 2 Gatling guns to him, as only 1 Gatling gun had existed in Japan at the time, so now this dude doubled up. He also sold 2,000 French rifles and various other armaments to the daimyo. Meanwhile, Matsudaira Katamori disagreed with the Tokugawa shogunate's policy of isolation and subscribed to the political notion of Eastern ethics and Western science. Katamori then employed Henry Schnell further as an advisor and trader to produce and train his troops in Western firearms to join in the war. So I guess he really didn't care about the fact that Henry sold 2 Gatling guns to the shogun's forces then. Also during the Boshin War, Katamori led the Eizu domain against the Meiji government but was severely defeated at the Battle of Eizu in November of 1868. As the fortunes of the Bakufu waned, Katamori provided the seed capital for Schnell's escape to California with a group of disgruntled samurai, retainers, and their families in an attempt to establish the first Japanese colony in America, called the Wakamatsu Tea and Silk Farm Colony in 1869. Sadly, with the forfeit of the Eizu domain, Katamori would be unable to continue his patronage of the colony, and it would fail 2 years later. During the war, troops also seized Edward's storehouse in Niigata in 1869, and in a compromise brokered by the Dutch Council, Edward received $40,000 in compensation in 1873 for his troubles. Like, these dudes took Edward's storehouse of weapons, and 4 years later they were like, sorry for that, here's 40 grand. Anyway, Henry disappeared in California without a trace, but was reported to have died in 1917, and Edward somehow appeared in Geneva, Switzerland in 1885 and died in 1911. As for Katamori, his life was spared by the shogunate, and he lived a pretty chill life, as he and his 3 brothers were called the 4 Takatsu brothers and had a highly influential role in the Meiji Restoration. Did you know about Edward and Henry Schnell before this video? Are there any other foreign samurai that you would like for me to make videos over? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.